Thank you, Jackson. So, after last week's technology failure, printed out everything. So, I'm good. I'm good this week. So, I do want to just jump right into the message. Last week, we talked just briefly about who are you. We talked about who are you? Like, who are you really? And Jesus, in our story from John 7 and 8, was telling the Pharisees who they really are, what they really are. They thought they were, I'm a son of Abraham, so I'm good. I don't need you, basically, is kind of the message that they were putting out there. And Jesus was like, you're blind. You don't even realize you're blind. And so, who are you? And we are asking the Lord to reveal to us who we are. We're also saying, who is he? So we looked through this message and we were discovering, like, who does Jesus say he is? How does he demonstrate his character? And we're going to continue in that for this week as well. And how do you respond to that? When we talked about who is he, we talked about why does it matter how one views Jesus? Why does it matter how one views Jesus? And I mentioned that they will base their life on it, right? Who Jesus is to you is how you will base your life. If he is just a moral teacher, the Bible becomes an ethics book. If he is just a prophet, well, then you have to dismiss the claims he made about himself being God. He becomes this possibly good person from long ago whose words don't really apply to you. If he's just a mythical, made-up thing, then he's a fairy tale, right? Like, that's how you would live your life. But if he is the Messiah, the divine Son of God, then it should affect how you live your life, how we live our lives. And so today I just want to jump right into the scriptures. Nick, I'll have you scrolling on this part because it's a lot for me. So I'm going to just read it, and I'll stop along the way because that's my job, right? Okay, so we're going to jump right into John chapter 9 for this week. As Jesus was walking along, he saw a man who had been blind from birth. Rabbi, his disciples asked him, why was this man born blind? Was it because of his own sins or his parents' sins? See, people really have a way of thinking that their sins are direct consequences of why they're suffering, right? That's been an Old Testament thing, that's a New Testament thing, that's a now thing. People think that it's always, I did something wrong, so this is my punishment. Or somebody else did something wrong, so this is, like, I have to face the consequences of this. And sometimes that is true. I will say, sometimes this is very true. But sometimes God has other plans for the reason that you're suffering. So verse 3, it was not because of his sins or his parents' sin, Jesus answered. This happened so that the power of God could be seen in him. So already we can see that there are reasons for God to do something that has nothing to do with what we originally thought. So verse 4 will continue showing us that we have a responsibility towards others. Look at this. It says, we must quickly carry out the task assigned us by the one who sent us. The night is coming and then no one can work. See that? You see that we must carry. It's not just I must carry it out and get it all done. Jesus is saying me, my disciples, we must carry out the task assigned to us by the one who sent us. The night is coming and then no one can work. But Jesus says, while I am here in the world, I am the light of the world. Again, look, Jesus is sharing that he is the light of the world. He did that last week too. Remember the scriptures from last week. He was sharing how he is the light of the world. So then, here comes the miracle, right? So, these are some important parts here. He spit on the ground, made mud with saliva, and spread the mud over the blind man's eyes. He told him, go, wash yourself in the pool of Siloam, which means sent. So the man went and he washed, and he came back seeing. His neighbors and others who knew him as a blind beggar asked each other, isn't this the man who used to sit and beg? Some said he was, and others said, no, he just looks like him. But the beggar kept saying, yes, I am the one. Now, look, there are so many things I want to get into, but my point of the message is who Jesus is and how we respond to him. So I'm not going to side tangent too much here, but I do want to point this one out. His neighbors and others who knew him knew him, said, "Isn't this the man who used to sit and beg?" And some said he was, and others said, "No, he just looks like him." When you know somebody, shouldn't you know when things happen in their lives? Like I find that very interesting. How much do we actually pay attention to those around us? And when something amazing, miraculous does happen in their life, no, that's not them. That's somebody else. That couldn't have happened to them. Side tangent here, but I do think that part's very interesting. I don't have time to dive into that today. But anyways, so yes, I am the same one. So verse 10, they asked him, "Who healed you? What happened?" And he told them, "The man they called Jesus made mud and spread it over my eyes and told me, 'Go to the pool of Siloam and wash yourself.' So I went and I washed, and now I can see." "Where is he now?" they asked. "I don't know," he replied. Then they took the man who had been born blind to the Pharisees, because it was on the Sabbath that Jesus had made the mud and healed him. Again, I could go into so much about that, but I'm not going to. Just know there's so much. We're going to dive in on, this is just another reminder, Wednesdays, we're going to dive in to more of the scriptures that we're preaching for this sermon series of John. We're going to be diving into that more deeply on Wednesdays, so you should come on Wednesdays so you can hear all these cool things. You should just come. Okay, so side note, there we go. Back to 15. Then the Pharisees asked the man all about it. So he told them, "He put the mud over my eyes, and when I washed it away, I could see." Some of the Pharisees said, "This man Jesus is not from God, for he is working on the Sabbath." Others said, "But how could an ordinary sinner do such miraculous signs?" So there was a deep division of opinions among them. Again, we have division over who Jesus is. That's how it was last week. We were looking at all the different things that people thought about Jesus. They called him a Samaritan devil. They called him demon-possessed. They called him just a prophet. They called him all kinds of names. Some of them did believe. Some of them said, yes, he is the Messiah. And remember, what you believe about Jesus is going to affect your life. How you respond to him affects your life. And so these Pharisees, again, on verse 17, questioned the man who had been born blind and demanded, "What is your opinion about this man who healed you?" The man replied, "I think he must be a prophet." The Jewish leaders still refused to believe the man had been born blind and could now see, so they called in his parents. They asked him, "Is this your son? Was he born blind? If so, how can he now see?" His parents replied, "We know this is our son and that he was born blind, but we don't know how he can see or who healed him. Ask him. He is old enough to speak for himself." His parents said this because they were afraid of the Jewish leaders who had announced that anyone saying Jesus was the Messiah would be expelled from the synagogue. That's why they said, "He is old enough, ask him." And so I'm going to pause just for a moment here. We see with the parents that they are afraid of what the leaders might think. They're afraid of what might happen to them. Their answers are very short, very small amount of answer right there. It's just, ask him. He's old enough. He was born blind, yes, that's true. I don't know how he got healed. Ask him. He's old enough. And then, are they even happy about their son? That's a little bit reading into the text here. I don't know their feelings, their thoughts, their emotions. It's not clear. It's not said. It's not stated. But it's like, man, they really don't mention anything about it. They just want to get out of there, right? You can see the fear. You can see that I don't want this. And it does say that his parents said this because they were afraid. So now let's go back to verse 24 here. And it says, "So, for the second time, they called in the man who had been blind and told him, 'God should get the glory for this, because we know this man Jesus is a sinner.'" Look here, they called him a name again, so now they're calling him a sinner. Verse 25, "I don't know whether he is a sinner," the man replied, "but I know this, I was blind, but now I can see." "But what did he do?" they asked. "How did he heal you?" "Look," the man exclaimed, "I told you once, didn't you listen? Why do you want to hear it again? Do you want to become his disciples too?" I feel like that one's just riddled with sarcasm. I can't guarantee that, but I really feel that one. Then they cursed him and said, "You are his disciples, but we are disciples of Moses. We know God spoke to Moses, but we don't even know where this man comes from." "Why, that's very strange," the man replied. "He healed my eyes, and yet you don't know where he comes from?" See a little bit of sarcasm there again, I feel like. "We know that God doesn't listen to sinners, but he is ready to hear those who worship him and do his will. Ever since the world began, no one has been able to open the eyes of someone born blind. If this man were not from God, he couldn't have done it." "You were born a total sinner," they answered. "Are you trying to teach us?" And they threw him out of the synagogue. And so we're going to look a little bit at this. Okay, so again, the parents here. We're just going to compare these two people, the parents. Again, they were afraid of what the leaders might think. They're afraid of what might happen to them. Their answers were very short, very small amount of spoken word there. Are they even happy about their own son being healed? I mean, I'm a parent. I'm blessed that my two children, and then the one on the way, they're all healthy children. There's nothing wrong with them. But I'm like, I can't imagine something major, especially in first century here, being born blind, having to beg to be able to provide for themselves. That's how he provided for himself. I can't imagine not feeling some type of joy or some type of emotion or some type of like, wow, something amazing must have happened. But yet they were filled with fear about what was taking place. The blind man, however, he speaks the truth. He's not afraid at all. You see some of the answers he gave. I mentioned that I feel like some of it's a little on the sarcastic side, like, you want to be his disciple too? Like, I think he knows that, no, that's probably not why the Pharisees are asking this. He even asked even asked the Pharisees if they want to be his disciples, and he gets thrown out of the synagogue. The very thing his parents were fearing, it happens to him. And he's telling the truth. Like, there is something different, right? Something has changed within the blind man, and it is more than a physical healing, right? It's so much more than just he got healed from his eyes. Like, something in his heart is also changing. He isn't afraid of being thrown out. He isn't afraid of not being believed. Something greater has taken over. Something greater, right? That's his response. It's like, there's so much more. What you believe about Jesus changes how you live your life. He is not afraid of what he might face. He's not afraid of the persecution. He's not afraid of the Pharisees. He's not afraid of being thrown out of the synagogue, right? His parents, on the other hand, they don't have a relationship with Jesus. They don't know nothing about Jesus. They know their son was born blind and something crazy has happened to him. So their response is, I'm going to live in fear right now. I hope that changed for them. I don't know. It doesn't tell us. But it's like, currently, their situation is, Jesus isn't my Lord. I don't know who he is. I'm still in fear of these religious leaders. While the blind man gets thrown out of the synagogue, has all these things happen, and he doesn't care. He actually goes on the rest of this section, verse 35, says, when Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man. Do you believe in the Son of Man? It's a small detail here, but I love that Jesus went in search of the man. It says, when Jesus heard what had happened, he found the man. It shows Jesus' compassion towards him, but also his pursuit of others. I just love that. I absolutely love that. The man answered, who is he? I want to believe in him. You have seen him, Jesus said, and he is speaking to you. Yes, Lord, I believe, the man said, and he worshiped Jesus. Then Jesus told him, I entered this world to render judgment, to give sight to the blind, and to those who think they see that they are blind. Some Pharisees who were standing nearby heard him and asked, are you saying we're blind? Jesus responds, if you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty, but you remain guilty because you claim you can see. This is the whole of chapter 9, right here. It's like, you think, like, if you were blind, you wouldn't be guilty, but you remain guilty because you claim you can see. Pharisees thought they had all the answers. And don't get me wrong, they were smart. They knew the word. Like we always give Pharisees a hard time because of the religious rules, but they knew the word. They had the Torah memorized. They knew the Old Testament very well. But their heart wasn't in the right place. Most of them. Some of them. There are some Pharisees who did believe in Jesus, so not all of them. But as a group, as a whole, for the most part, it was they think they had the answers. They thought they could see. And they're a little bit prideful in that area too. So that's chapter 9. That's the response. And so we want to go more into this because we want to see this in chapter 10. How does this unfold in chapter 10? But I want to tell you just a little bit about an illustration before we go into chapter 10. I did a sermon over this, I don't know, a few years ago, probably 2 years ago. And I had my son blindfolded, and he stood up here. He was probably 8 or 9 at this point. He stood up here blindfolded, and I told everyone to start yelling directions at him for him to follow. And so, like, everyone's yelling at him, and he's, like, confused, and he's standing there going, like that, because he doesn't know what to do, because everyone's like, turn here, go over here, raise your hand. Like, they were just telling him all kinds of things that did not make sense. And he just stood there lost and confused. He's like, I don't know what to do. And he was blindfolded, so he couldn't see, he couldn't tell who was talking to him. And then I stopped him, I stopped the group, and I said, okay, we're going to do this again, but Brant, this time I only want you to listen to your dad's voice. It's the only person I want you to listen to this time, okay? But everyone else is going to be yelling, but you listen to your dad. And so, again, he's blindfolded. He doesn't even know where his dad's at in the moment. But everyone starts yelling. And what do you know? He was able to listen to his dad's voice because he knows his dad's voice, right? He's been yelled at a few times. He knows his dad's voice. He knows what he sounds like. And so Brant was able to listen to Daniel's instructions and do whatever. Can't remember what I had him do. But he was able to listen. He was able to follow. He was able to be obedient. And that's what we're going to see in chapter 10. So my children know who I am. They know my voice. That's what Jesus is going to talk about in this next section here in chapter 10. So our response, how do we respond to what we know about the Lord? We listen, we follow, we obey. So let's read some parts of chapter 10. We're not going to do the whole chapter, but we are going to do some parts here. Chapter 10, I tell you the truth, anyone who sneaks over the wall of a sheepfold rather than going through the gate must surely be a thief and a robber. But the one who enters through the gate is the shepherd of the sheep. The gatekeeper opens the gate for him, and the sheep recognize his voice and come to him. He calls his own sheep by name and leads them out. After he has gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them, and they follow him because they know his voice. They won't follow a stranger. They will run from him because they don't know his voice. Isn't that amazing? Look, I want to just point out on here how many times we see that. We're going to see the gatekeeper opens the gate for him. The sheep recognize his voice. They recognize him. He calls his own sheep by name. So, man, Jesus knows them by name too. I really, really like that. And after he has gathered his own flock, he walks ahead of them. They follow him because they know his voice. They won't follow a stranger. They will run from him because they don't know his voice. Verse 6 here. Those who heard Jesus use this illustration didn't understand what he meant. So he explained it to them. I tell you the truth. I am the gate for the sheep. All who came before me were thieves and robbers, but the true sheep did not listen to them. Yes, I am the gate. Those who come in through me will be saved. They will come and they will go freely and will find good pastures. The thief's purpose is to steal, kill, and destroy. My purpose is to give them a rich and satisfying life. I am the good shepherd. The good shepherd sacrifices his life for the sheep. A hired hand will run when he sees a wolf coming. He will abandon the sheep because they don't belong to him and he isn't their shepherd. And so the wolf attacks them and scatters the flock. The hired hand runs away because he's working only for money and doesn't really care about the sheep. I am the good shepherd. I know my own sheep and they know me, just as my Father knows me and I know the Father. So I sacrifice my life for the sheep. I have other sheep too that are not in this sheepfold. I must bring them also. They will listen to my voice, and there will be one flock with one shepherd. Again, I want to point out, do we see? They know his voice. They know his voice. They respond to Jesus' voice. That is how you know you're part of the herd, the flock, right? You respond to the voice of the shepherd, the good shepherd. Verse 17, the Father loves me because I sacrificed my life, so I may take it back again. No one can take my life from me. I sacrifice it voluntarily. For I have the authority to lay it down when I want to, and also to take it up again. For this is what my Father has commanded. When he said these things, the people were again divided in their opinions about him. Look, they're divided again. They really don't know. So some said, he's demon-possessed and out of his mind. Why listen to a man like that? Others said, this doesn't sound like a man possessed by a demon. Can a demon open the eyes of the blind? Again, people do not know what to think of Jesus, but they clearly see that he performs miracles. They're not blind to the miracles, right? They're seeing that. What we think of Jesus directly affects how we live our lives. What we think about Jesus directly affects how we will live our lives. We're going to keep going for verse 22 here. It was now winter, and Jesus was in Jerusalem at the time of Hanukkah, the festival of dedication. He was in the temple, walking through the section known as Solomon's Colonnade. The people surrounded him and asked him, how long are you going to keep us in suspense? If you are the Messiah, tell us plainly. I love that. I absolutely love that. If you're the Messiah, just tell us. Just tell us. Just say yes or no. Remember last week when Jesus says, before Abraham was, I am, and they picked up stones to throw at him and kill him, right? That's what happened last week. There's probably a similar crowd, probably some of the same people here, because they're talking about the man born blind here. And they're like, you claim to be God. Like, we're going to kill you now. And now they're asking, if you're the Messiah, just tell us plainly. Just tell us. And you know what Jesus does? He says, I have already told you, and you don't believe me. The proof is the work I do in my Father's name. But you don't believe me because you are not my sheep. Look at that. Jesus points out the problem right there. You're not my sheep. That's why you don't believe me. If I told you plainly, you still wouldn't believe me. If I said I am the Messiah, you're going to pick up stones and throw them at me. It doesn't matter how plain I am with you guys. You don't believe me because you're not my sheep. You don't listen. Verse 27, my sheep listen to my voice. I know them and they follow me. I give them eternal life and they will never perish. No one can snatch them from me, for my Father has given them to me, and he is more powerful than anyone else. No one can snatch them from the Father's hand. The Father and I are one. And once again, the people picked up stones to kill him. They knew what he was saying. They knew what he was saying, and they still, they're the ones asking for it. They're the ones that, tell us, are you the Messiah? And now they're going to pick up stones to throw at him. And the rest of the chapter is mostly them getting mad that he's saying, yes, I am the Messiah, to that effect. And then they're like, we're going to kill you. We're going to arrest you. That's what they want to do. That's their response. Because what? What they think of Jesus directly affects how they live their lives. They think he's a liar. They think he's demon-possessed. They think he's crazy. That's what they think of him. So their response is, let's arrest him, let's kill him, let's get rid of him. Let's do something about it. But for those who believe, man, it's so life-changing. It's life-changing. I want to read verse 28 here again. I give them eternal life, and they will never perish. No one can snatch them away from me. For my Father has given them to me, and he is more powerful than anyone else. No one can snatch them from the Father's hand. The Father and I are one. So, my question for you guys today is, what's your response? Are you a sheep? Are you listening to his voice? Do you know his voice? Just like I shared that little illustration about what my son did with, and then my husband, his dad, talking to him, like Brant knows his dad's voice. He knows my voice. My daughter, she knows my voice. She knows her dad's voice. If we were all in a crowd and we all started talking, she would be able to pick out my voice, and probably a few of you guys as well. But it's like she would be able to know because she knows my voice. She listens to me. Not all the time. But for the most part, she listens to me. She's obedient. She's a good girl. Brant's a good son. I have really good children. At least I think so. I was like, they're obedient. They listen. They follow directions. Again, most of the time. I was like, but what about you? Do you know the voice of the Lord? If he's speaking to you, are you able to hear it? Are you able to be obedient to it? Because it's one thing to hear it and then completely ignore it and run the other direction, right? But are you able to listen to his voice? Are you a sheep? So, Camden, if you want to go ahead and come. What you think of Jesus directly affects how you're going to live your life. I want to just drill that into us today. What you think of Jesus is going to directly affect how you're going to live your life. Is he just some mythical person? Is he a fairy tale to you? You're not going to give it much thought, just like you probably don't give much thought to the fairy tales of today, right? You don't pay attention too much to Cinderella unless you're just telling a story for fun, right? Telling some kids some type of story. If he's just some moral good guy, it's like, okay, well, the Bible is kind of an ethics book. You can, like, kind of follow your own path, but it's whatever. He's a good guy, so maybe listen to some of the things he says. Yeah. Or is he Messiah, the divine Son of God, who freely came and gave up his own life in order to give you life? Because if that's what you believe about Jesus, man, that should be known. Just like how it was for the blind man. He's no longer afraid of what might happen to him. He was willing to risk getting thrown out of the synagogue. He's willing to tell those Pharisees that, hey, this happened to me. It's real. It's true. Jesus healed me. I don't know exactly who he is right now. I don't know much about him. Like his first response was, I think he might be a prophet. But then later we see that he's worshiping Jesus. That's what the end of that chapter says. He fell to his knees and he worshiped because he recognized that, no, he's so much more than a prophet. He's so much more than a good man. He's so much more. He's worthy of worship. He's God. So today, who are you? Are you a sheep? You one of those people in the crowd? You a Pharisee? Believe it or not, I was a Pharisee for a long time. I acted like a religious leader who didn't even know much, honestly. But I thought I had it because I knew the word pretty good. I knew some things. I lived a religious life, a moral life. But it was all for nothing until Jesus really changed my heart. So who are you? Are you a sheep? One of the people in the crowd? Don't know what to do with Jesus? Maybe he's demon-possessed. Maybe he's crazy. I don't know. Are you a Pharisee? Just trying to shut things up? Move on. Let's keep to the practical things we know. Who is Jesus to you? And how will you respond? If everyone would mind to just stand during this time, we're going to sing a song of worship, but I want to open up the altar for you to spend time praying. God, maybe you're saying, I don't know your voice very well. I don't know when you're speaking to me. I don't know, because all these other voices are coming at me, just like that illustration of brain. All these voices are happening and they're taking place and it's noisy and chaotic. So I don't know how to listen to your voice. God, teach me to hear your still small voice. Maybe that's you today. Or maybe you do know his voice. You know what it sounds like. You know that tugging in your heart, that pulling, that leading to take the next step that he's asking you to take, and you're wanting to run from it. You're wanting to be disobedient. You're thinking, no, that's too much. It's too much of me. So maybe this is your chance to pray and seek God. Ask him for strength to take that next step. Maybe that next step is actually getting saved. He's been talking to you for a while, and you know that that's your next step. And you want to pray, and you want to actually surrender your life over to God. Man, I would love to pray with you about that. Maybe it's baptism. Maybe that's something that you've not done yet, that you're like, I need to do this. God has told me I needed to get baptized, and I just haven't been obedient for whatever reason, X, Y, Z. Maybe he's telling you to give up something. He's been saying, hey, this isn't good for you. You know you shouldn't be doing this. Maybe that's what you're supposed to be doing right now. Asking for prayer, asking for help, accountability. I don't know what it looks like for each of your lives. I don't know what's going on in every single one's life here. But I know that God is talkative, that he absolutely wants to speak to you. And if you haven't heard his voice, he wants to speak to you. He wants you to hear. He wants you to know how much he loves you. So we're going to give this time over. If you want to pray at the altar, you're more than welcome to. If you want to sit down in your seats and pray, you're more than welcome to do that. If you want to sing along to the songs, you can do that too. But Camden's going to lead us, and I'm just going to pray before we begin this. God, I pray right now. God, I may not have mentioned somebody's specific thing that they're needing to pray about right now, but God, I pray that you would just prick their heart, that they would know that this is the time that I need to pray about this. I need to talk to the God of the universe about this issue or situation or thought or sin or whatever it might be. God, I pray that as a congregation that we would know who you are, that we would know your voice, that we would be obedient to your voice and what you've called us to do. There is a work for us. There is a work for us, Lord, that we must be obedient to. As your word said, we must quickly carry out the task assigned to us by the one who sent us. God, may we know that we're not alone in these times, that you are right there beside us, that we are on mission, not just for you, but with you. God, I just pray that if anyone doesn't know you, that this would be a moment of surrender in their lives. God, we love you so much. It's in your name I pray. Amen.